All right, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Biblical Hitman. I'm your host, Steven. I'm here with Jesse and Taylor, and today joining us is Ronan. Ronan has an extensive background in military. He's also a police officer. He's a deputy for the Central Florida area. He's served in the military since 2009, and I believe it went to 2014. His MOS was 0311. He was an infantry rifleman. He's also served 2 deployments in Afghanistan. He was also a recipient for a combat action ribbon. Most importantly, he's a father of 4. He's a born-again Christian. He's here to talk about a lot of different things with us tonight, as far as him having experience being a master mason, an occultist, and a New Ager. And so we're going to get into a lot tonight, and I really appreciate you, Ronan, for coming on and giving us your time. And I'm really excited to get into a lot of the conversations we're going to venture off into. So, but how are you doing, brother? And welcome to the show.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, and just everyone for clarity. That's ex-master mason. I'm not a master mason anymore.
Right.
Thanks for the clarity. I'm not an occultist anymore. But no, it's awesome, man. It's really cool. I really like what you guys are doing here, and I'm floored that you had me taking time out of to talk to you. Thank you for taking time to talk to me.
No,
I've seen some of the
absolutely.
other people that have been on your show, and I'm like, hey, I know that guy. I'm like, hey, I know that guy. I'm like, I see his reels all the time, and I'm like, hey, I sent that dude a message. He never sent nothing back. I'm like, dude, so yeah.
I hear you on that. I hear you on that, man. I mean, it's been a blessing just seeing the guys that we've had on. I've reached out to females as well. Okay, listen, I'm not just like I'm not just targeting men here. But the thing is I really just been searching and reaching out to the Christian community, and a part of our algorithm is pretty much Christian, end of days, gospel preaching, normal human beings. And we've been able to connect with these people and bring them on the show, hear their perspectives. Some of them have different theological perspectives. Some of them have a lot of interesting takes on the Bible, where it kind of makes you go reread some scripture, and it makes you, in a way, just reread it for the first time. And, we appreciate Doc Brown coming on. He was in one of our recent episodes, and I mean, man, he killed it, that show. And, we had on John Kerwin as well. Appreciate John coming on as well. Yeah, Doc Brown's huge, man. And man, he's got so much experience with, different books, and having multiple people on his show, and just history at itself, and just Bible history too. And we're going to get into a lot of that interesting stuff. So, but hey, man, dude, thank you for coming on. I'm really excited to get into this. But what we're going to do is, we're going to start it off. We're going to let you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do, and just tell us about your testimony, man. I want to hear about you.
All right. So, well, to really give you the full context of it, I'd have to go to the beginning, but I'm not going to take 20 years in telling you. But so I'll try to give you the Cliff Notes version. So I grew up in a secular household. My mom was a Christian, but it wasn't really mandated in our house. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't like we have to go to church. It wasn't anything like that. It was a very secular household. So as far as the biblical insights and the biblical worldview, that wasn't introduced to me until I was about 10 or 11. I went to a church camp. My cousins invited me up to Georgia to go to their youth group beach camp that they had, and they went down to Pensacola, and they essentially had like a kids revival down on the beach, which is ironically where I met my now wife. I met her whenever I was 11, and so there's a whole lot of history there. But as far as my testimony and my biblical walk, I went to public school. I grew up like most normal kids, you know what I mean? All the way up through high school. I played, played a little bit of football, but I was more into the individual sports. So like wrestling, weightlifting, stuff like that. Because when I played football, I played my heart out and we sucked. Like we were awful. And it was just like, I didn't like the idea of having to rely on a team. I just wanted to know, like, if I won because I won. And if I lost, then it's because I sucked, So that kind of drew me more to like wrestling, weightlifting, stuff like that. You know, I, uh, I, I, the talks were always there with some of my friends, you know what I mean? Like my close friends with, he's not friends with me anymore, but, we used to have kind of spiritual talks, you know what I mean? But we didn't really know what we believed or where we stood. And just growing up in the house, it was just, we go to church on Christmas and Easter because that's what we're supposed to do. You know what I mean? But as soon as as soon as I was entering into my senior year of high school, I was living in a household that at the time was very, very, very tumultuous. Let's put it that way. Lot going on in the home, and I just wanted to get away. I mean, it was things had gotten so bad in the house that I ran away from home. I was actually picked up on the side of the highway by a Florida State trooper. And I don't know why, I just had this crazy idea in my head that I was going to walk to Georgia to go be with my now wife, and I don't know what my plan was, that I was going to hide in her closet, until I was 18, but I wanted anything else other than to go back home. Like I don't know. I just had to get away. And it eventually got to the point to where whenever I joined the military, I wasn't doing it because I wanted to be all I can be. I didn't want any of that. I wanted to die. I wanted to die. And I didn't know what I thought or believed about suicide, you know what I mean? Because like half my family, they're all like Irish Catholic. And so like in their theology, like if you do that, then it's over. I mean, you might as well have taken the mark of the beast. So, so suicide is not it's not an option if you're a Catholic. And, I knew I couldn't do that. And I just felt worthless, and I needed something to be proud of, So, at that time, I mean, everyone here is pretty much old enough to know that, this was obviously after 9/11. So we were still very much at war. And, I didn't know anything about really special forces or anything like that. And I remember I saw a couple of different movies. I saw Full Metal Jacket. Full Metal Jacket, that sold me. And I just wanted to mow stuff over. I wanted a machine gun. I wanted guns and grenades, and I wanted to just kick in doors, and I wanted to be a commando. I wanted to be the hero. You know what I mean? And, you know, hey, if I got smoke checked in the process, then I guess I got what I wanted. You know what I mean? And obviously I don't think that way anymore, but that was just kind of the sick way that I used to think. You know what I mean? It was almost kind of like a martyr. Very kamikaze like mentality. Anyway, so so immediately as soon as I get into the military, as soon as I get into boot camp, because I signed up, you know, I could have been anything. I got a high enough ASVAB score. I could have worked on nukes if I wanted to. And I was like, nope, I don't care. Front line. That's where I want to be. Front line. So I got sent to the infantry. Well, my boot camp, as soon as I got there, I immediately knew. I was like, oh, dude, what did I do? But, you know,
rude awakening, huh?
Oh man, as soon as the drill instructor got on the bus, I'm like, oh no, man. You know, like it totally was not what I saw in my head. But hey man, dude, as soon as you're there, dude, you're committed. It's like, we got you now. So anyway, I go through that, you know, go to my combat school, get in my unit. Eventually, you know, met my wife, we got married. Right before, and we made it a point for me to get married right before I deployed because at that point, Iraq was really built up. You know what I mean? They had like a lot of Kush deployments out of Iraq, but Afghanistan, this was like Afghanistan 2. Afghanistan was the Wild West. And, you know, even a lot of the seasoned, you know, guys that have been around, sorry if you hear that in the background, a lot of the seasoned... Can you hear my?
Yeah, you're okay though.
It's okay.
You're a family man, brother.
It's all right.
What it's all about right there.
So, you know, I even a lot of the really seasoned Iraq vets that were my seniors whenever we came in, they were pretty nervous. And I'm the new guy coming in looking at them, and they're just as nervous as I am. You know, and even though they don't want to kind of convey the fear to the new guys, but they were just as scared, and you know, because like, hey, this is totally uncharted territory where we're going here. So in that respect, like we were kind of all in the same boat, you know. Anyway, everything about that deployment was completely wrong place, wrong time. It was awful. It was absolutely awful. There's actually a camera crew that followed us, my unit specifically, 1st Battalion, 8th Marines, and they did a documentary of our unit whenever we deployed over to Afghanistan. So we had one documentary, and then they actually did a follow-up after we all got out because they wanted to see how all of the members from our unit are handling life afterwards, and it's depressing, man. It's sad because, you know, like, you know, they're showing guys all strung out on heroin. Other guys are drunks. Other guys getting arrested all the time. You know, you got like one dude who's like a tycoon. You know, you got a couple cops, and then you got homeless guys, and it's not it's not the kind of documentary you want to watch if you want, you know, an uplifting, you know, Thursday evening. You know, but it was because they remembered how bad that deployment was. They were like, oh no, we got to do another one. And so anyway, on that deployment, I can say this. And when we get to that point, you guys can feel free to ask me whatever, but you know, it's strange because I was not a believer at the time in the way that I would say I am now.
Yeah, so your perspective was a little different on some things.
Very, very, very different. Very, very different. I will say this. you have a lot of people, just like you do in the fire department, just like you do in the sheriff's department, in the police department. You have certain guys that are, believers, and then you got some guys that are just like militant atheists and God's not real, God's dead, this is fairy tale, Fugazi nonsense, you know. And they have no problem saying that, and they just, you know. But I will say this: I didn't know what I believed, but I do know this: I never played with God. You feel me? Like,
Yeah.
I never made jokes about God. I never, there were, and this is relevant to my story and ironically how you found me. The video that I made on TikTok that went like super viral. I talk about my good buddy Jimmy. He was my senior. He trained me. So he was the one that taught me how to stay alive. And apart from the grace of God, Jimmy is primarily the reason that I'm even here today, that I actually have the physical ability to sit here on this podcast. He taught me everything. He taught me how to shoot. He taught me everything. And he was my senior. He was Iraq generation, but he kind of took me under his wing as like his younger brother. Whereas he had like this very disparaged view on life. He saw that I had hope, and he didn't want to squander that. And so like he kind of took me as his protege. And ironically, that's also where a lot of my party phase came from, was from my buddy Jim, who's actually very integral to the story as to why we're talking here today. But he was he would make jokes about Jesus that I don't even feel comfortable repeating, and I even told him back then, I'm like, bud, I don't know what you believe, and I don't care what you believe. And again, like I said, I didn't know the truth of the word of God back then like I know it now. But even then, I'm like, yo, dude, you don't know. Like, you say you know, and you don't know. And because you don't know, you don't play like that. You know what I mean? Like, because if he is real and you're spitting in his face right now, we're in a very dangerous job, Bubba. And you're going to need every bit of help that you can get. Okay. And I will say this, though, like, again, I didn't have the truth of the knowledge of the gospel back then, but I had a certain fear of God. You know what I mean? And because of that, I prayed on every foot patrol that I went on. And I can say, for beyond the shadow of a doubt, I've never felt closer to God in my life than when I was deployed, because I had literally nothing else other than to pray to him all day, every day, because my life was quite literally completely in his hands. And so anyway, we suffered a lot of casualties on the first one. Like I said, there's a reason they made a documentary about it. Come back stateside. We end up deploying again. Second deployment was bad, nowhere near as bad as the first one. I don't want to take forever in my testimony, but again, this is also integral to a lot of the topics that you're probably going to want to ask me about later. I had a couple of friends, younger Marines that I trained, and, for all intents and purposes, I'm not going to name them just because they might see this, and I don't know if they'll feel comfortable me name dropping them, but I will say that, we had a lot of paranormal experiences. And not even necessarily while we were deployed, but whenever we were back on base, we were, aside from all the drinking, I mean, I can hardly remember any sober days that we had, but any sober days that we did have, It was nothing but horror movies. It was nothing but, uh-oh, did I lose you?
Oh, you're good. Keep going.
Okay. When we were back on base, you know, in addition to the present company that I was very close with, people that did not like God, did not have a very high opinion or view of God, it was nothing but drinking and horror movies and other illicit substances that we weren't supposed to be doing, but we never got caught doing them. You know, we were just partying, man, partying, and but we had a lot of paranormal experiences, and we didn't know how to handle that, so we just kept drinking naturally. But I can say for one night in particular, I did a double blind test. Okay. I had some paranormal happenings that were going on in my house. My wife, Kim, she had to go on a trip back down home to Georgia to go visit some family, and it was just going to be me at the house. At that time, I was super into ancient aliens, anything UFOs, anything aliens, any horror movies. It didn't matter what it was, whether it was the Paranormal 2, Paranormal 3. Paranormal 3 made me never want to talk to my grandmother ever again. There's nothing.
Yo,
people think little girls are scary. No, grandmothers.
The way she crawled over there was a little.
You've seen it, yeah. Grandmothers, never wanted to talk to my grandmother ever again after that. But anyway, so my wife, she goes away on this trip back down home to Georgia, and I went to sleep. And it was the kind of sleep that was so deep, and it was so rapid onset that when you don't, like, you literally just close your eyes and then you open them again and you think you're awake, but you're out, you're gone. And when I woke up, I was in the same house that I was in because I lived on base housing. So I was in the same house. I woke up and I remember I'm like, man, I got to wake up. I got to pee. Nothing about this made me think like, okay, I'm dreaming. Right. And then I hear Kim downstairs, in the kitchen. She's saying, come here. Like, I need you to come and see this. And I'm like, what? I'm like still in my underwear, like rubbing the sleep out of I'm like, what? So I come down the stairs because we had stairs, and I walk into the kitchen, and she's frantically jumping up and down. She's like, babe, you got to do something. It's outside. You got to get it. It's outside. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? What's outside? And I look, and this was kind of my first clue, but again, I didn't know that I was dreaming at this point. I go, what's outside? What? And she's in the kitchen pointing at the back sliding glass door. And she goes, it's out there. You got to go get it. You got to go kill it. And I look out through the back sliding glass door, and this is where I knew something was wrong. That was not my backyard. It was the backyard from my old home. But now I'm in my new home. And as soon as that happened, I'm like, this isn't real. And I'm standing at my back door, and she's jumping up and down, screaming. She goes, babe, you got to go out there. You got to kill it. And I'm like, hold on. Shh, hold on. And I'm like looking, I'm like, what is going on here? And I turn and I look at Kim. And again, everything is so real. You can touch, you can feel everything, right? I look at Kim and I'm studying her face, and I know my wife. I know what my wife looks like. I know what my wife feels like, and I know this sounds weird. I know what her face feels like. Like, I know what her like, even if it was dark, you know what I mean? Like, if it was dark and there's no light and I touched her face, I know that's my wife, right? I know every top to bottom, every mole, every wrinkle, every strand of hair. I know her, everything. I know my wife, and this, whatever this thing was, did a very good job mimicking her.
Who's a mimic?
I don't know what that is, but hopefully you got. But whatever this thing was, did a very, very good job mimicking her. But, there were very subtle things that it didn't get right about her facial features that only I would know, right? And like her dimple that she has on the side when she smiles, right? You wouldn't know that if you just looked at her face. So I had 2 small dogs at the time. I had 2 miniature pinchers, and one was Archer and the other one was Dee Dee. And I looked down, and the dogs are tricky trotting on the floor, right? And I look down, and I'm looking at the dogs, and I'm studying. And now Kim, now the F-bombs are coming. Now she's getting really ugly. Now she's getting really loud. Now she's getting really violent. Because whatever it is, she was trying to sell me that I had to fix my attention on the back sliding glass door and go outside and kill it. But I'm not paying attention, and I'm actually starting to look and study what's around me now.
Yeah, you're starting
And
to
when I
kind of
look
realize.
down,
Yeah.
I noticed my dogs. I'm starting to kind of wake up, and I'm starting to kind of realize, like, uh-oh, this isn't what I think it is. I look down and I look at my dogs, and again, they're miniature pinchers, and if you ever seen what they look like, okay, black, right? They got the little brown socks. They
look like Black Jack Russells, right?
But I look down, and their print is wrong. Their print's wrong. So, like, one of them didn't have the little brown socks that they had. And the other one had a longer tail, even though he had a crop tail. And so, as soon as I saw that, I slowly look up at Kim. And again, still at this point, even though I'm becoming aware, I can still feel everything. And I look at Kim and I say, that's not my backyard. Those aren't my dogs. And you're not my wife. And when I said that, she just kind of cocked her head to the side. And I said, Kim, if this is you, I'm sorry, but this is going to hurt. And she goes, what? I'm in the best shape of my life at this point. Early 20s, Marine, just got back from Afghanistan. I am a machine at this point. And I put every ounce of my 220 pounds into the hardest, fastest punch I could. Oh, yeah. And it was hella fast, even in the dream. You know how whenever you're dreaming, the horror dreams, you're always like, you can't move and they can move as fast. In this dream, it was hella fast. That thing was cooking. And she caught my fist. And when she caught my fist, I felt it. You ever shake somebody's hand, and whenever you shake their hand and they grab yours back, you're like, oh, I'm a little boy. I'm a little boy. If this guy wanted to hurt me, there isn't anything I can do. Somebody ever grab you like that? Maybe like an old farmer or an old mechanic? Yeah. Imagine that, but about 20 times stronger. when she caught my hand, it was a vice grip. And then the scariest, and I'll never forget this until the day that I die. As soon as she caught my fist, the other hand immediately grabbed me by the throat. And same vice grip, and started lifting me into the air. And as soon as it started doing that, the sides of her mouth started splitting all the way back, and her head completely ripped in half, and out of her head came an elongated blackish gray head with fangs. Okay. And have you ever seen the movie Signs? You know, whenever they do the little freeze frame thing, or the one at the end, when it's got his, it's kind of like that. And here's the crazy thing about it. This is long before I was ever saved. This is 12 plus years ago. So I am being lifted into the air by this thing that has an absolute death grip on my throat. And I don't know why, but just instinctually, I just had this panicking thought. I was like, I need help, and there's nothing that I can do. I was hammer fisting, slamming my forearms into her arm as hard as I possibly could. I'm trying to swing. I'm trying to gouge eyes. I'm trying to do everything that I can, and I am a child in this thing's hand. And I'm the strongest that I've ever been, ever, and probably ever will be at that point in my life. And I was a child. And hard as I could, I just had this panicking thought to just cry out to Jesus, of all people. I'm able to pull back one finger with every ounce of strength that I have, right? But every time I go to choke out his name, it squeezes harder. I'm barely able enough to break this thing's grip, to get it off of my pulse just enough to choke out the name Jesus. And when I did that, everything was over. And I woke up, flew out of bed, can't breathe, throat is absolutely killing me, and cold sweats absolutely shook me to my core. I have never had PTSD like that in my life. No nightmares about Afghanistan have ever been like that. And that started the first of many nightmares where that same thing came back a couple years later. Anyway, so that was kind of me just kind of getting thrown into the deep end of the pool as far as anything, spiritual. But it kind of set a fire in me to where, I wasn't like this nihilistic person that was just jaded from the war, because now I had confirmation evil exists. And if evil exists, then good obviously must exist. So that's what started my journey into looking all this stuff. And so I was searching for what I believe to be the truth. And, trust me, there's nothing different about service members or, frontline workers. We're all conspiracy theorists. You know what I mean? Probably even more so in the military, because we see how they lie. Perfect example, what kind of like took my, trust for the government and threw it in the trash can was on my second deployment. I remember President Obama got up in front of the TV and said that we had no more units in Afghanistan. And I was watching this in Afghanistan.
Wow.
So, wait, were you part of that viral clip of those guys No, that was Joe Biden. Never mind. There was a clip of Joe Biden saying the same thing, and there's these guys that are recording it on like TikTok or something, and they're like, wait, where are we right now?
No, but it was the same thing with Obama. He did the same thing. So anyway, that's what started my journey, I guess you could say, and to looking to what I believe to be the truth. You know, again, I'm into all these ancient alien documentaries, and what frequently gets brought up in those documentaries? Freemasons. Well, I did all the research that I could into them, and I knew that it wasn't something that they were going to actively recruit you, because their entire saying is to be one, ask one. So I had to seek them out. And I watched all the documentaries that I could. I tried to get as much information as I possibly could. And I ended up finding them. They ended up accepting me into their lodge, Lafayette Lodge 83, out of Jacksonville, North Carolina, which I am happily no longer a part of. I sent them a long letter when I got saved, and I said, I'm sorry, but I can't serve two masters. And the head of their lodge is actually called the Worshipful Master. Yep.
No.
So I didn't even address him as Worshipful Master. I just said, look, sir, I can't, I'm sorry, but I can't serve two masters, and I choose Jesus. So from here on out, sorry, I'm not sorry, but you're not going to be getting one more dime of my dues. And I want any affiliation that I have, or any record, or any good standing, completely stricken from the record. I want to forget that you ever knew me and sever all ties. And I pray that you come to the saving grace of Jesus Christ.
Do you ever get like them try to, obviously they're going to try to still look at you and try to keep tabs, I'm assuming, or do they just kind of excommunicate you and be done with you?
I will say this. I've dealt with some strange people, for sure, but I'm very forward, and I carry. So we can get stupid if we want to, but we can get stupid if we want to. But like, I don't know if you're Dead-Eye Dan, but I'm pretty quick, so you better be quick. But all joking aside, it's more of like it was an excommunication thing, and there was no. I took out any room for any kind of wiggle room or talking me back in or anything like that. I dug my heels in, and I'm like, listen, I'm sorry. I burned all my regalia. I took my my apron, all my awards and stuff. I burned it. My wife, she got pictures of it all. It's all somewhere in one of our hard drives or whatever. What
rank did you get at, if you mind me asking? If you can.
So the highest you can go is Master Mason. There's a lot of misconceptions of when it comes to Masons. The highest you can go is Master Mason, which is 3rd degree. But there's a lot of lateral degrees. Like you can go very far sideways. You know what I mean?
I heard there's more than 33. Is that true, or do you know anything about it?
33 is the top. 33 is the top. 33 is good luck. That's a lifetime of servitude. You can get to 32, but 33 is like, you're in it for the better part of 20, 30 years, and maybe they might consider you for 33. I
want to get your take on this though. What was the initiation?
And I'm sorry,
process?
I'm not trying to drag this out too long.
Yeah, you're good. But what was the initiation like for something like that? Because we all hear the stories, right? We hear the pant is pulled up to the knee on one leg. We hear the blindfold. We hear the shirt unbuttoned. We hear a bunch of things.
So here's the thing. I've done a lot of things that I'm not proud of. I believe we all have, I made a lot of mistakes in my life. I've hurt people, screwed people over, not even just people that, that I didn't know, people that are very near and dear to me, but I'd say probably one of the biggest regrets, not the biggest, but probably one of the biggest regrets that I have, was everything that I did in the Masonic Lodge. In particular, the oaths that I took and the rites and the rituals that I performed. Because at the time, I just looked at them like they're rushing in college. You know what I mean? Like they're just hazing. Like they just make you do a bunch of stupid stuff, and you're like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, okay, all right. You guys are just being weird. And if this is all I got to do to join the club, then whatever. So in that aspect, especially when you're young, you know what I mean? You're just whatever. You don't think anything of it because your mind's clouded, and the scales are very heavy on your eyes. Not to mention drinking your face off every day probably doesn't clear your mind up very much, but very confusing time in my life. But I will say that I was so accustomed to titles. Pride was something that I was very struggled with for a very long time. Pride, I mean, it's in the title. It's, the few, the proud, the Marines. So, I mean, I even got a picture up there of that's a picture that they took of me in the middle of a firefight in Afghanistan on my first deployment. Wow,
what are you holding right there? What rifle is that?
That's a DM. That was a Mark 11. So It was. Just think of
nice.
Just think of an M4 with a silencer and a scope. So that was in a lull and fire right there. So that was in between shots and rounds, and I just took time.
Looks like, I'm sorry to cut you off. It looks like a fixed stock. It's not though, is it?
It was a pretty fixed stock. Yeah, and it was just taking a second while rounds are shooting overhead, and I just lit up a cigarette and. Trying to.
That's American.
I just need it. It's American, but I don't smoke anymore. But the rituals. What you've heard is true, but I think it kind of misses the forest through the trees. They make you have the one pant leg up. Yeah, they make you walk around blindfolded. Yeah, they put the dagger to your heart. Yeah, they make you say all these stupid things. But again, like I said, all of these things separately in and of themselves are seemingly silly and harmless. You know what I mean? Because it's like you're rushing in college. And it's not until it's not until you actually understand the truth of Scripture and the truth of who Jesus Christ is and who God is, that when you juxtapose the oaths that they made you repeat and the things that they made you say, and the swearing that they made you do, the most satanic thing I've ever done at the Master Mason ceremony, when they make you walk around with blindfolded, they hit you in the head, they symbolize a death, and they carry you in the sheet and they carry you around the lodge. And they make you repeat a bunch of nonsense. But when it's all done and the lights come back on, that is the creepiest thing that I've ever seen and will ever remember. I remember the lights coming back on and the blindfold being lifted and just being in the middle of this checkered floor with two rows of men in tuxedos lining up either side of me, and an altar in the center of the room lit up with a book open with what they say is the Bible, with a golden square and compass on it. And they make you walk up and kneel at this altar. And you pledge your oath to the grand architect.
It's Lucifer the light bearer, isn't it?
Note at the time. But you know, they give you your handshakes, they give you your passwords. And I think everybody gets so fixated on the secrecy of it. Everybody gets so fixated on the handshakes and on the signals and how they stand with their feet, and you know, that again they lose the forest through the trees. All that's semantics, okay? All that's rushing. All that's college fraternity, whatever. It's the oaths. It's the swearing. It's the not knowing who you're pledging your allegiance to. In a way, it's almost kind of indwelling with an unholy spirit. Much like you get saved here and it's an altar call, it's the exact same thing. The exact same thing, but it's a complete reverse. Yeah, go ahead.
The devil loves to reverse it. Yeah, the devil just loves to reverse, put upside down whatever God creates. And you mentioned the checkered floor. I've done a lot of research. You know, there's like YouTube stuff about it and whatever, but I've done like deep research with stuff. I've even been threatened by Freemasons myself when I used to live in the Bahamas because I was exposing a lot of their stuff. But the duality is the black and white stuff. Everything they do is like signals, oaths, and they're very particular for reasons. And I don't know, is there anything that, you know, you were doing other than that altar call that just made you go, dang, I'm in it deep right now?
I would say it was learning the speeches that I had to give in order to climb the ranks and the degrees. You know, swearing to have my throat slit and have my tongue cut out and my innards exposed to the birds of the air to feast on my flesh, and just like, it's stupid stuff when you're 20, you know, and again, you're not a believer. You're just like, everything's punk rock. You're like, yeah, man, that's so metal, you know? But looking back now, I'm just like, oh man, dude, like I'm so ashamed of it. You know what I mean? Like I know God has forgiven me, and I've asked forgiveness for it, and I've repented from it. But I would say, like, as far as the memory of, man, it
lingers. I hear that,
yeah,
man. I think we've all done stuff like that, you know, to where we're just like, dang, can God really forgive me? But he can. Thank God, because we'd all be dirtbags without him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
right.
It's funny that you said, so what did you say? They said that they would gut you and feed your organs to what?
Yeah, let my innards be exposed to the birds of the air and just, yeah.
So when you said that, that made me think of Prometheus, the Greek god, where Prometheus, Zeus punishes him to have a bird. Well, first of all, he chains Prometheus to a rock, and an eagle comes and feasts on his liver like day and night, each and every day, and then the wound heals and then does it again. And when you look at like the Rockefeller Foundation, you look at the Rockefeller Center, there's a statue of Prometheus there. And there's a lot of parallels with Prometheus and Lucifer. And you can compare characteristics to where Prometheus brought, you know, knowledge and fire and taught mankind, which you can make a bunch of parallels with that and the fallen angels and Enoch.
Right.
All that kind of stuff. It's wild.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to drag on that part. But so I near the end of my Marine Corps career, I was raised to the rank of Master Mason. And then I ended up getting out because we had just had my first kid. And at that time, all combat deployments to Afghanistan had stopped, and that's what I signed up to do. We had no more combat deployments, so I was faced with re-enlistment and a couple of different options. I could either go try to make the move to Special Forces, in which case I would probably end up divorced because you never see your family again, hardly ever. Or I could make the move to drill instructor and go out to the drill field and scream at recruits all day, and their divorce rate is just as high because they don't, they're constantly gone. Even though their family is right there, they have to stay at the squad bay with all of their recruits, and they sleep there. And, and so they're just, at that time, I was like, I'm going to get out. I'm going to try do my own thing. I was kind of disgruntled, with the military at that time, and things just didn't end up working out the way that I thought that I thought I was going to do 30 years and retired sergeant major of the Marine Corps, and none of that stuff ended up happening. But I did my time faithfully. I got out honorable discharge. And I moved around a little bit. I had some couple odd end jobs. I got this wild hair up my backside that I wanted to restore classic muscle cars. So I went up to Blairsville, Pennsylvania, and I was going to Wyotech for a while before they lost like their accreditation and stuff. Cause I thought that that's what I was going to do. I'm like, dude, Pimp My Ride was like, I was addicted to the show. So that's what
love the show.
I love
that stuff, man.
That show was so dope when it was around.
I just made a joke. I have a Ford F-150 that it's just falling apart on me now. It's a 2011 Platinum F-150, and I'm like, where's my Pimp My Ride, dude?
Dude, right?
Where's the exhibit at?
Yeah, I got a 2012 EcoBoost that just started knocking, so like I could definitely have my ride pimped right about now. But so that's what I thought I was gonna do. But ironically, at that time when it was there, I was struggling with a lot of post-traumatic stress that I wasn't even really aware of that I had at that time. And the apartment complex that I moved into was like. It was like an 85%. Like, I don't know if all these people were just shipped over here from sneaking through the border or whatever, but it was like an 85% population, all Middle Eastern, in my apartment complex.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Hey, God's testing you, brother. God's testing you.
So when I got there, I'm seeing the same when I got back from Afghanistan, I'm seeing the same stuff. People outside sitting down and eating. They called them shuras. They were having shuras in their backyards.
Wow.
And so whenever I got home, I'm like, and I'm a civilian now. So like I'm out, and dude, you want to talk about, dude, I was a quack, man, and I didn't know that whenever we first moved in because everybody was gone. It was like moving into a ghost town apartment complex. It was a ghost town because everyone was at Mecca.
Wow.
Bad time.
Very bad timing for that. Yeah.
So not only was it a bad time, but at that time, when I was getting out, that's when ISIS started popping up onto the scene. And so you started seeing all these videos of dudes getting their heads sawed off on the news, right? And I'm like, where did we just move? You know what I mean?
Real talk.
And this is in the middle of Pennsylvania. And like in the middle of nowhere. And it's just like this village that we lived in this apartment complex. And I'm like, babe, I can't I can't do this. You know what I mean? And for those that are new and just watching, you would have to understand, and you would watch some of my documentaries, you would understand why this kind of gave me issues. It's not, it's not like I freak out when I see somebody in a turban, but anyway.
Yeah, you were surrounded by an entire the whole apartment complex.
Well, I also knew what to look for. Right. And I knew, you know what I mean? That was my life, So anyway, at the same time, we started seeing all the Ferguson riots and all this stuff going on. And, I needed money. So I had this idea. I was going to move back home and I was going to become a cop. I come home, I go to the police academy. And while I'm down here at the police academy, one of my good buddies reaches out to me and goes, "Hey, man, I got an in with Triple Canopy. Let's go make bags."
Been trying to get in Triple Canopy so bad, man. That you got to be the top of the top to get in there, though. I do security myself, so that's
And I was like, "Word." I'm like, "Money," and he was like, "Yep, let's go make this money." I said,
"Big time, yeah.
Say
PMC,
less.
baby."
Yeah. Say less. Let's do it, right? So, it's not what it all ended up being cracked up to be, because your protections from the U.S. government is like nothing. And they're like, "Hey, you get into it, you're pretty much on your own because you're not supposed to be here."
Pretty much.
Not a good feeling at all. So anyway, get out, get back. Was having some big time issues, marriage wise. We were about done, and I was 90%. I was 99%. I was 100%. I was 100% of the reason. I almost destroyed my marriage a couple times. But we rebounded and, ended up living in a camper. And it was me, my wife, my kid, and my dog. And, like the roof would leak and like rain would hit you in the face. It was it was a roof over our head, but it was probably the most depressing time I'd ever, been through. And, cause I felt like a loser, man. I'm like, I don't know how I went from that guy to,
well, they don't treat veterans very good sometimes, man. You think they would set them up afterwards, like for God's sake.
I was that guy, and I just, and now I'm in a camper that leaning sideways, and literally I can't sleep because rain's hitting me in the forehead, and it was bad news bears, man. It was very, very depressing, but I still I had to truck my way through it, and then I finally caught a break, and I was about to give up on applying to police departments altogether because I had applied all over the state, and everybody just told me no. And whenever you get one no, it's, you have to list that failed, you applied and they didn't accept you. You have to list that on the next list to try to get hired on the next agency. Well, the agency that I work for now was the one that I was originally trying to work for. And when they turned me down the first time, then I had to put that on my next resume. And then when they saw, oh, we've already denied this guy, right? Now I got to put it down twice. And so whenever I had to apply to another agency and they go, whoa, this dude's already been denied twice, right? So now I got to put that again.
Wow.
And it's
like, I have buddies that try to do the same thing here in Florida. And he has an associate's degree, has everything. He has the training. He does armed security like myself. And he was a cop in a different department, but they kept denying him and keep denying him. Like 3 different agencies, and he can't find nothing.
Well, and it's contrary to popular belief. Whenever they say anybody can be a cop, it is actually extreme. It is actually extremely, and that doesn't mean that I'm all bags and all that in a bag of chips. That just means I got lucky. Because it very well was not going that way at all, like at all. So that wasn't a testament to how great I am. That was a testament of God looking out for me, because I really caught a break. But yeah, so I just kind of got caught in this negative snowball, and nobody would hire me. And I'm like, I really don't want to go overseas again. Like I'm like, I'm probably going to have to do it again. And I'm like, I don't know if my marriage can take it, a fourth deployment, but, I ended up catching a break. I got a phone call when I was, out with my wife. We just, I think we were out of Daytona or whatever. And I was like, I had a goatee. I had a whole 9 yards. I was like, I was looking like a total scrub. Like I did not look like interview worthy at all. The guy was like, hey, I'm Deputy Chief so-and-so. I'd love to, sit you down and talk to you. When can you be here? I said, what are you doing today? He's like, what, today? I was like, right now. What are you doing? Yeah. Right now. Now. And he was like, where are you? I was like, don't worry about it. I'll be where I need to be. Broke every speed law on the way back home. I told him, I was like, look, man, I was like, I'm in jeans, I'm in cowboy boots, and I don't look the part. But, he sat me down, and I was like, look, just give me a chance. Just give me a chance. I'll show you what I can do. Well, they ended up hiring me, and they actually almost they extended me in training because they're like, this dude's too militant. Like, he's too, like, and it's pretty bad when you have cops saying you're like, dude, you're too. And everyone's like, dude, that cop's such a jerk. Can you ever see that? Well, I'm the guy, the jerk cops are going like, bro, can you chill? Like, so.
Yes, Joe Sergeant.
That's funny.
Yeah, right. And so, they were like, this dude's too militant, I don't know. So, I begged them to keep me around. I ended up, passing. And then we had some pretty insane calls just in my time whenever I was over there. I'm not going to dime out the area, but I will say that we had an active shooter at our high school. And, I was still in training at that point. My field training officer, we were doing 130 miles an hour to this school because it's active and ongoing. And, this is Florida. So there's like old people and golf carts and people driving 30 miles an hour and driving like this on the steering wheel. So when you're driving 100 and, mock stupid, and somebody pulls out in front of you, it's like you're a missile. And so like you're dead instantly. So it probably had more probability getting there than we did actually whenever we got there. But when we got there, everybody and their mom showed up. It was city police, it was county sheriff, fish and game, state troopers, FBI, ATF. Like it was just an army of cops were swooping into this high school. And the SWAT teams were out there, and they were yelling. They're like, hey, who knows the layout of this place? And I'm like, I went to school here. They're like, great, stupid, you're up front. And I'm like, all right, you know what I mean? So it's literally me, the rookie, and a bunch of like FBI guys and SWAT guys running in, and they took a picture. And it was pretty cool. But we ended up getting the kid, and thank goodness he didn't do too much damage. But as soon as that was happening, we had another school shooting, same time, different high school, opposite end of town. Same day. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Were they linked? Were they? No, not at all.
I don't know, but and you're talking about the opposite end of the county. So we have an army of cops here, and then as soon as the scene was secure here, you just see an army of dude. It was Pepsi 400 all the way there. People just taking Facebook live stream videos, just seeing all these cars fly past them. Anyway, other than that, I got onto the SWAT team. So I was I was doing that for a while. Very briefly, I was a canine handler, but me and the dog did not get along at all, and I think my dog was broken. I had a psycho.
It don't work.
I had a psycho Belgian Malinois, and he would just attack me, you know. But
No, the other
you
guy.
know, yeah, right. But anyway, I wouldn't even consider myself a canine handler. I was doing it very briefly. But you know, I got really kind of disgruntled and burnout on the road. You know what I mean? Because again, it's just like, and I'm sure, you know, like as a firefighter, like if you don't take care of yourself, like mentally, you don't take care of yourself, more importantly, spiritually, like if you legitimately just try to muscle your way through it the whole time, like, dude, you're going to crack. You're going to crack.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing with me too, cause I'm kind of a big deal. No, I'm not a big deal at all. Listen,
He is though.
Yeah. But no, at my department, I'm kind of on like the peer support team or whatever. And the peer support team is like a shot team for mental health pretty much. And, I mean, since I've been a part of it, I realized how much PTSD I do have. And I realized that, man, you know, I'm not comfortable really talking about a lot of things because it kind of just flares up a bunch of things. I really just get annoyed and kind of leave the room. But I try to be there for other people. Yeah. For example, today, you know, we had, or not today, yesterday at like 3:00 in the afternoon, 12:00. That's Jesse's time. He's over in Vegas. But, you know, we had a 5-year-old get run over by a 1500, and kid got dragged 100 feet. Kid's face dragged on the ground 100 feet. There's just like a skid mark of blood that I ended up kind of walking through. It looked like a tire skid mark. That's what I thought it was. But when I followed the trail, it went all the way to, you know, a pile of blood. We had to lift the truck up off the kid. The kid was mangled in his bike and all this kind of stuff. And we had guys there that not only did I get hired with them, but we had young kids there. And you know how it is. You hire a new group and you see how much of these people are they're kids, man. And it's not until you're on a few years to where the job kind of turns you into a man. But anyways, it was just a tough time. And
I'm sorry you had to go through that, man.
Nah, that's all right. A couple of people didn't, you know, show up to dinner. That's when you know it's taken a toll on someone. But mental health, especially in the police force, the fire department, you know, first responders, that whole kind of deal, even just military coming back from tours or, you know, being put back in the civilian mode. I think that's what gets us is the things that stress us out in the civilian life flare up the things that we go through when we go to work. But
for sure.
or what we see at work and what we experience there. But the interesting thing is when you're at work, you're good. At least for me.
Yeah.
I feel comfortable. But when I'm home and something stresses me out about bills or this or that, and
I was just saying this to Stevie the couple weeks ago. He came out to visit me, and I'm like, it's so funny to me. I'm like, I'm a residential plumber, and I deal with, you know, some things that will stress out anybody as well, right? Leaking, you know, you got water spraying out of a wall, leaking the ceiling. I'm like, Stevie would freak out with some of that stuff. Like, but I feel like if there's somebody dying in front of him, he's gonna be cool as a cucumber, and because that's your job, you know, that's you're dialed in, and this is something it's normalized.
Yeah,
it's normalized.
I was trying to tell the because I'm also a preceptor, so I teach the paramedics that are pretty much got to get cleared before they're on the road on their own, and you see the lack of like scene control. There's something with this whole game in the fire department where you're either going to let the scene control you or you're going to control the scene. And I'm sure, Ronan, like you know exactly what I'm talking about. And the biggest thing, if I can teach something to someone, you know, trying to be in this career for a long time, to be as good as their potential shows them to be, they have to learn that. They have to learn how to like detach from their emotions, detach from the human nature of things. Like, it's the human nature to freak out when someone is dead, bleeding out.
Yeah, it's not it's not I mean, death obviously is natural, but in and of itself, like, we know in our spirit that that's not supposed to be that way. Like, even when we're not saved, at that point before we're saved, there's something that feels very unnatural about death, because they're like, they were just here and now they're not. This doesn't compute, and it goes all the way back to the garden. We weren't meant to die, but we screwed it up. So, and the wages of sin is death, and so unfortunately, that's just part of what we got to deal with now.
Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback off something that you said earlier, there's guys that kind of try to muscle through things. They which a lot of people on the line that we work with deal with things that way. But what helps me, and what has helped me grow to really like be better at this, is by just giving it all to God and turning it over to Him. And Jesus knows what we're going through. He knows our thoughts. He knows how much our heart hurts for certain things, and I just give it to Him. I'm like, hey man, this is too much for me. I can't do anything about it. I can't even fix it.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Yeah.
Like, here you go. I'm just going to be humble and do my job for you, or do everything really in my life for you, right? It's kind of like the biggest thing when you pick up your cross every day, and you that's what you should try to muscle through, is that, picking up your cross every day. But
so anyway, I just got disgruntled, and I had just reached that point in my career where, my wife told me, she was like, hey, listen, like, you wanted to go work at this other department, and you're just about up at the end of how long you said you were going to be here. You gave yourself a 5-year commitment, and here you are. So you need to, you either need to do it or don't. And now's the time to make up your mind, because if you're not going to, then you're going to be staying where you're at. And we're not hopping and skipping and jumping anymore. Like, you've had enough time to figure it out. And I did, in all fairness, because trying to figure it out with the military, I wasn't it. Tried to figure it out with the mechanic thing, I wasn't it. Trying it out in the police department, closer, but it wasn't it. You know what I mean? And then she was like, hey, listen, like, this is it, but like, this is it. And it was fair, because, I made her that promise all those years ago, and, I was holding up to my end of the deal. So I ended up putting in for the department that I'm working at now. So now I work at the county level, still the same job. I still work patrol. I still do all the same calls, still, all the same thing. The Baker Acts, Marchman Acts, all that stuff. Domestics, whole 9 yards. My passion, as you can see, and my hat right here, and if you've been paying attention to my social media, I was just up in Tennessee. My passion is dope, money, and guns. 3 food groups. So that's kind of the stuff that I like intercepting. Also, I have kind of I guess you could say, a pathology whenever it comes to criminology and policing, that, pretty much the axis of all crimes spin and revolves around drugs in one way, shape, or form. Even if you were to count like domestics, which are largely, alcohol fueled. Well, alcohol's it's a drug. It actually, it is, regardless of whether or not it's kosher or not. It is. It alters your state of mind, alters your state of consciousness, and if you have too much, it makes you think you're Conor McGregor, and then it makes you want to fight everybody. So,
that's Jesse, by the way.
Oh, that's Jesse.
That's Jesse.
Hey,
yeah,
listen,
I know
man,
you have. I know you have experience with like the boxing game and everything.
Yeah.
But this guy here is like a UFC, analyst. He's got a YouTube page, Jesse T Baby. He broke my ribs one time. It was great. Love this guy.
No, not that crazy. Not that crazy. Yeah, carry on.
But anyway, I get into the department now, kind of taking it. I'm taking you full circle, and hopefully this is all being recorded, and you can edit this part out here in a bit because I'm getting to the point to where I'm old and I'm gonna have to pee here in a minute. I about 4 years ago, you remember I told you I was on this thing where I was just constantly searching for the truth. And this is when I was working at a city PD. I was on the SWAT team. I was on all this stuff. My ego was like the size of Texas. Being a Marine didn't help. Being a cop didn't help. Being on the SWAT team didn't help. I mean, like, I thought I was the Burger King. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's pretty badass, though. You know what I'm saying?
It's hard not to have a head like that when, it was like Dan Blazarian, whenever that one viral clip of him, when he was like, "Oh, check my creds, bro." Yeah. So I had all the creds, right? And my head was, so far up my back end, it just like you couldn't talk to me. But at the same time, while all this is going on, I was trying to muscle my way through everything. And I was searching for what I thought was the truth, and not that any of these things in and of itself is bad. It's just, it wasn't the answer. So I was doing nothing but reading Sun Tzu, Art of War, Jocko, Discipline Equals Freedom, all the Jocko books. I read, David Goggins's books, and it was just like every dude, like,
who's gonna carry the boats?
I was gonna carry the boats, right? And it was just push and push and push and push and push and push. And it was exhausting. It was absolutely exhausting. And, at the same time, I didn't know what I believed, but I could not, I don't know what I can and can't say, because I don't want to get this slapped down from YouTube, but to stay on the safe side of not getting in trouble, I was thinking very seriously about self-deletion. Let me put it that way. And I wasn't playing. Like, it wasn't going to be like a cry for help thing. I wasn't going to get Baker-acted. I wasn't going to have them come and take my badge and my gun. You were just not going to hear me. Just wasn't going to show up to briefing on Monday morning. And then they were going to come looking for me. And they were just going to find pieces of me. Because I was for real. I wasn't, and at that time, I ran every day. Because you remember, I was like channeling David Goggins. Like, I had to carry the boats, right? And so every day I would just run and run. I ran more than I did when I was in the Marine Corps. And there's a trail that's close to my house with this trailhead. And I told my wife one day, she was going out to get groceries. Kim was going out. And she's like, "Babe, all right, I love you. I'm going to go to Walmart. I'll be right back." I said, "All right, I'm going to go head out to the trail and run." She goes, "Okay." And I had decided, like, today's the day. So I go out to the trailhead, and I get in my 2012 EcoBoost that needs to be pimped out. And I take my truck, and I park all the way in the back, tuck back away from everybody and everyone and everything. Because, again, like, this wasn't a cry for help thing. We're doing this. I couldn't take it. I couldn't get rid of the nightmares. I couldn't take everything from Afghanistan. not just everything that I saw, but everything that I did. Because there are several people who are no longer walking this planet because of me as well. I understand that it was a time of war, but at the same time, that was another human being. I understand that they were an enemy combatant, but again, knowing what I know now, they had a soul and they had a final destination. And, I doubt we're in the same place. So hits a little bit harder when you actually know what you believe and knowing the truth of God now. Yeah. I took my truck and I parked it all the way in the back of the woods. And I just sat there and I took my piece out of the silver console, out of the center console. And I was just sitting there for the longest time and I was like, is this it? Like, where the hell did that guy go? Where the hell is he when I need him? And of course, he was nowhere to be found. And so I just raised it up, closed my eyes, and I slow, steady squeeze to the back wall, just waiting for it to break that plane. Click, bang. And as the tension was pulling back, and it's a good thing I got my mic turned down because I'd be blowing out your eardrums here. But I heard stop, and
wow.
I freaked out, and I looked because I was expecting somebody to be tapping in my window. And I looked in my passenger seat, and I looked up out of my window, and there's nobody. And it wasn't in my mind's eye. It's not like I heard it in my head. Like I heard it. Like somebody was right there. Like I said, I thought somebody was sticking their head up to my window. And immediately, I knew exactly who that was. But again, I still didn't know any of this stuff. But I knew, I was like, did God just stop me? And when that clicked, I buried my face into my steering wheel and I just sobbed. So I go home. Couple months later, I'm still feel like I'm running, I'm running up towards the truth, and again, at this time, I'm heavily drenched in the New Age. I'm heavily drenched in occultism. I'm just looking for what I perceive to be the truth. Where is the answer? And it's like Goggins, the faster and the farther I run, the further it gets away from me. I always just missed it. It's always just up around the bend. And that's what is so infuriating about the New Age, is that there's always a new level. There's always a new ascension. Part of enlightenment. There's always a new ascension. There's always
Yeah, you got your chakras and you need to build it all up.
You got the chakra. Yeah, it's like I said, it's either my chakras are out of whack, or or since my chakras are whacked, then I'm not listening to the right vibration, or I'm not listening to 432 hertz music, or I'm not doing the it's just it's exhausting. And again, I'm trying to spiritually do what I think David Goggins is doing right now, running in the middle of a winter snowstorm, and I can't take it, and I can't keep up, and none of it's working. And spiritually, I'm tapped out, David Goggins, if you ever do listen, and if you're listening to this, you are an inspiration, but not what I needed spiritually.
Yeah, just I mean, the inspiration of David Goggins is he's just fighting demons.
Yeah,
he's just fighting his demons. He's just trying to beat them down.
He's an inspiration for me to go outside, and he's outside. He's an inspiration for me to go out and run, and he's a hero of mine. But I was trying to apply him in the wrong way. I needed Jesus. I didn't need David Goggins. I didn't need Jocko Willink. But like I said, any of that stuff in and of itself, as long as it's in the proper place, is not bad. It's not necessary.
It's just so funny because Jesus is so much more badass than everybody. We look at David Goggins and like the 100-mile runs and all this, and I'm like, Jesus is way more badass, bro. He is. It is what it is. Bro. Look into
Died
it.
the worst death.
Come back to
rose
me.
again on the third day.
Exactly.
Yeah, when you can run on water, then I'll buy your next book, David. So, but anyway, at this point now I'm in a panic. Now I'm in a spiritual panic because I knew where I was, and I knew I'm like, I am on spiritual life support. And I just had this thought. I was like, I'm just going to listen to sermon after sermon after sermon after sermon. And that's all that I did all day, every day, hours. And when I say all day, I mean all day. I wake up, earphones go in, and it is sermon after sermon, everything that you could possibly think of. And I am because like I said, right now I'm in panic mode. And it's like every time I was done with one sermon, this voice in the back of my mind was like, and at this time it wasn't like when it was in the truck. It's, I didn't audibly hear it, but it was like, you're a little bit closer, keep going. And then I'd listen to a couple more and it'd be like, okay, you're a little bit closer, keep going. And this went on for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I finally come across Living Waters. Finally come across the street evangelist, Ray Comfort. And I was so fascinated with his videos because he just made the gospel make sense. And it finally made sense. And the pieces were starting to come together, right? I was starting to see a picture, right? And I watched probably hundreds of his interviews. And then I finally get to this one where he's talking to this kid, Mario. And if you haven't seen that episode, it is a tearjerker. It is.
Yeah, I watched that one when I was a kid too. Yeah.
Did you?
I grew up on Ray Comfort. Yeah. So
he when I found his episode that he did with Mario, this kid spoke exactly like me. Everything's God. We're all God. You're God. It's just this pantheistic hodgepodge of The Secret and, just a little bit of Jocko light and, just what I call, and if you've watched any number of my videos, I call this very, very lukewarm, happy, clappy, sing-songy Jesus, this Build-A-Bear Jesus,
right.
Christ consciousness.
Yeah.
Whatever. And this kid was saying all the same stuff that I'd been saying for years. And Ray Comfort systematically and very gently, I mean, the guy's gentle, but at the same time, you feel like you're getting your face smashed in with the truth, but in the most gentle way possible. But
the love of Jesus.
Yeah. We'll get into that. We'll get into that. Yeah. Well, the whole spiritual brass knuckles thing, but he essentially explains to this kid. He goes, "Son, do you know what a false convert is?" And he has no idea, and he explains it to him, and the kid starts crying, like remorse, crying. You can tell it was breaking him. And as soon as I heard that, I got this icy pit in my stomach because I was at work when I was hearing this. Mind you, I'm still working. It's not like I took 3 weeks off. Like, I still have to go to calls. I still have to work domestics. I still got to do overdoses and all this other stuff. But in between my calls, I'm driving and I'm listening to sermons and I'm listening to Ray Comfort. And I had just got off of work, and, there's a church there's a Spanish church that's literally like 400 feet away from my house. When I heard what he was explaining about the false convert, I parked my SUV, my patrol cruiser, in this church parking lot right across the street. And, I called up my father-in-law. My father-in-law, Carlos Salaveria, my wife's father, he is a pastor of a church, Water's Edge Church, down in Clearwater, and he's PhD, doctorate. You know what I mean? Like, he's been pastoring for 30 years. You know what I mean? So I mean, like, guy knows his word, like, inside out, backward, forward, literally English, Spanish. Like, he know inside and out. In 2 different languages. So I called him up and I was freaking out. And I said, Carlos, I need to talk to you. And it's really important. He goes, yeah. I said, I need you to tell me, am I a false convert? And the phone just goes quiet. And I'm starting to cry, and I'm like, Carlos, please tell me, is this me? Am I a false convert? And a few more seconds go by, and he just kind of hears him. I just kind of hear him swallow and just let out this sigh. And he goes, son, I think you and I both know the answer to that question. And when he said that, I, like your life flashes before your eyes, I remembered the times that I wanted to unalive myself when I was a kid and didn't. I remembered every firefight. I remembered every time a bullet hit the back wall, 7.62 by 3.9, 6 inches from my face. I remembered catching a ricochet in my helmet. I remembered almost laying on a daisy chain IED that EOD had to come out and blow up. I remembered getting split up in this one mission that we were doing, and the guy that walks behind me was supposed to go to the house to the left, and I was supposed to go to the house to the right. We were supposed to take these 2 houses during this clandestine mission that we were doing. And he goes, no, that's fine. And we switched spots. And the house that he went to stepped on a pressure plate. Blew his legs off.
Jeez.
Dang.
I remembered crying on the roof all night, watching him disappear into the night sky on a helicopter, not knowing if I was ever going to see my best friend again. I remembered every single traffic stop that I'd been on. I remembered every fight that I got into where we ended up finding guns and knives. I remembered anytime I'd frisk somebody and just had this feeling, you better handcuff them quick. And I did. And they had a gun on them. I remembered the times that I found guns in car searches that were literally wedged in the door, completely in my blind spot, that I would have never seen, and they could have killed me at any time. Anytime. I remembered every code run that I ran, and somebody pulled out in front of me, and I missed them by fractions of a hair to going into a collision, a fatal collision. I remembered every single one of these times. And it all came to a head, and I realized he was protecting me the entire time. And the way that video wraps up, he gives a Bible verse, which has become my staple mark in just about every other video that I do. You remember I told you that I was searching in a panic, and all I was looking for was the truth. I needed the answer.
Yeah.
And I tried everything. I tried the Masons. Masons wasn't it. You know, I tried the New Age. New Age wasn't it. And the New Age is a blanket term. There's a lot. New Age isn't just, you know, boring white chicks who like crystals. Like, there's a lot in the New Age, you know. There's a lot.
I love you, bro. That's so funny, bro. You're so right about all that. That's
it's so retrograde.
It's such a great point. Such a great point, dude.
There's so much to the New Age. And I'd been through all of it, you know. And he wrapped it up and he said, Jesus said to them, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no man comes to the Father except through me. And that stopped me on a dime. And the reason that is my staple mark, and that's my go-to verse now, and just about everything, that's going to be up on my wall. He is, capital T, the truth. The truth. That's it. He's the originator. He's it. He is quite literally the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega. And for someone who is on a quest for the truth, he gives you the answer. He said, I'm it. I'm the sign. And when I put that piece together, and there was one last piece, and that piece was, now I know what I know. Now I know the truth. And now I have no excuse, number one. And number two, I have pushed this line for 20 years. And now it's make up your mind time. Because we're no longer playing with God. And now you're accountable for what you know. There's no turning back now. You either decide or you don't. And this is not the job to not know. Anything can go wrong. And just because I'm saved doesn't mean that it's, you know. I mean, I almost died 2 months ago.
Gosh.
Yeah, I almost died 2 months ago. Literally, I almost died again 2 months ago. You know, I had to go work.
Dangerous job.
It wasn't even my call. That's the hilarious thing about it. It wasn't even my call. I was the backup guy, and I got called out to Walmart for a petty retail theft. Some guy in there just stealing like staplers and shampoo and nonsense. The guy was high. You know what I mean? Just like not Ritz crackers and toothpaste and, you know, just like nonsense. It's not like he went and made a mad dash for the Xboxes. Or,
He's trying to have good hygiene. That's good.
But you know, my buddy, he's got that guy handcuffed, and he goes, "Hey man, you mind doing me a favor, just searching through that bag?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man," because he's getting ready to take him to jail. And I find this little jean jacket like style notebook, like an old CD case that they used to have back. They used to have these things back in the day. They were called CDs, and like, they had like these little case things that, you know. Anyway,
and I'm old.
Yeah, so anyone watching, there used to be these circular things. They're called CDs. And anyway, so he had like this old like jean jacket CD case looking thing. And you ever open up like a bag of M&Ms too hard and then everything goes flying? Well, the same thing happened to me, only it happened with meth, heroin, and fentanyl.
My gosh, that's crazy.
Poof.
Oh no.
And I bet the very first thing you did was breathe out. Right?
No. You ever seen that one TikTok where the guy's like, and he's like, oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah. As soon as you breathe out, you got to breathe right back in, brother.
Oh no.
My body.
Well, you're here
up.
though, so I'm happy that this story is. Oh wow.
Yeah, my body locked up. I went down. I was still conscious because it wasn't that much, and I don't think I breathed in, but it was still like poofed right in my face. I couldn't function. I couldn't talk. I couldn't do anything. And thank God there was another deputy that was right there. Everybody working in the loss prevention office of Walmart's just standing there like, you know.
Oh yeah, nice. Thanks for the help.
Hey man, let's record. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, let's just all with our phones and not give a rip out anybody else.
Everyone's like, "Oh, dude, I'm on live stream right now." You know, while I'm over there like seizing out in the corner.
Narcan.
Yeah,
Golly,
right.
Bro.
So anyway, they load me up into the back of the ambulance, and I could actually feel my. There was a point where, I started not worried, as in I was scared of my destination. I know it sounds bad. Like if they listen, you can't use this against me, okay? All right. Well, you know, but they in a way I was kind of relieved. Not that I want that to happen, but I was just like, man, you know, I mean, come on, you know what I'm talking about?
Than this earth. I mean, this earth's
like,
crazy, bro.
Like if the rapture started happening, there's not like a little part of you that would be like, oh, thank goodness, dude. I'm so over it.
Yeah, right.
No more bills. Oh my goodness. The monetary slave system.
Yeah. Right before let me just run up these credit cards and then the trumpets come.
Just give me 2 more months, Lord.
Yeah, but you know, I started to feel myself slipping, and I only had 2 thoughts. My first thought was, well, I really didn't think the story was going to end like this. And the second thought was, I am so glad I gave my life to Jesus.
Amen.
And that was, but obviously I'm here. It didn't end up, you know, I didn't end up getting an Uber to heaven. So,
man,
but it just goes to show the importance of this. Because even though, you know, you don't have to be a cop or a firefighter, you could pull out to an intersection and some dude can run the red light and smoke you at 85 miles an hour. You're not promised tomorrow whether you work security, whether you're a plumber, whether you're a mail clerk, or whether you or a Navy SEAL. Like it's like you're not promised tomorrow. And so you can't put this stuff off till forever because you don't know if you got that long. And I'm sorry I've been eating up all this time. I know we probably wanted to wrap this up in like 5 minutes, but
Dude, you're
good.
killing it, man.
Hey, we
bro.
love it.
as far as like editing, you can edit out as much as you want, but
Nah, man,
far
you're
as like
killing it, dude.
that is my testimony. And with the as far as like the whole content creation, the TikTok thing, I was actually very scared, very apprehensive to start doing it because like any and everything that I've ever done, I've always carried a gun. Every job that I've ever had, I've always carried a gun. I've only had one other job that I wasn't carrying a gun. And that was when I was a fry cook at Sonic in like high school. But, other than that,
feel naked without one. At that point,
I've lived my entire life by the sword. This is all I know.
Yeah, right.
And so the thought or the threat of that going away is terrifying, especially because my wife, at least for the time being, for the longest time, Kim was a stay-at-home mom, but our economy is not in a place that would really allow her to do so anymore. Thanks, despite inflation, but
right.
we were doing fine for a while, even with the 4 kids that I have, but like, it's just like we're getting murdered at the grocery store, so it's kind of like, all right, well, now she's going to nursing school, or she's going to be starting nursing school here soon. She just got her CNA, thing. So she just wrapped that up, and, really proud of her. And she's killing it. She's total nerd when it comes to it. But she started out making biblical content, and where this all kind of started.
Does she still have a page?
She does. It's just, our youngest daughter is very demanding. She's nonverbal autistic, so she's like I said, she's very demanding. I mean, we got in-home ABA therapy Monday through Friday every day. We got a therapist coming to the house every single day, because it breaks my heart, but I'm fairly certain she's probably going to be like one of these kids that we have to respond to all the time. These wanderers, these kids that just like walk off, and and that's just, it is what it is. But so she couldn't really make it that much, but whenever she was making it, a lot of her earlier stuff, I would give her quotes, or we'd be talking, we'd have these talks. She's like, "Oh man, I love that. Oh, can I use that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't care, whatever." You know what I mean? Like, go ahead. And then she'd make the post, and then she'd post it up, right? And then she started getting banned. Like, I really didn't like the stuff that she was saying. It was, and I started getting so into it. So this is kind of like what I thought we were doing. I thought we were going to be kind of role reversed her, because this was going to be Kim's candor is what her pages was. So I was going to have, and I'm like the visionary, right? So I was like, "Oh dude, we'll get you a table. We'll get you the little mic thing. We'll get, and if you see like on my desk, I will get you cool stuff to put on your desk." And, dude, I was all excited for this little thing that I had back here, but then it was like zoomed way up here, So I had like this whole like thing that I thought her page was going to be, right? And, and she's so smart, man. Like, she makes me look like a caveman, and, she's got such an elegant touch to it and like, it's primarily going to be for women, right? But then I started getting like really testy, and I'm like, "Yo, man, let's ruffle some people's feathers here," right? So then she'd make a post, and kind of edgy, you know what I mean? Like, definitely like start picking some fights on Witch Talk and stuff like that.
I've been guilty of that too.
Right? But anyway, it was primarily like Facebook and Instagram and stuff that she would make this stuff on, and then eventually got to a point to where I was feeding her so many ideas. So, like I was saying, I was feeding Kim a lot of, I guess, stuff that she could use for her posts, and then she eventually got to a point where she was like, "Babe, as a woman, I'm supposed to teach other women. I'm not supposed to be getting into theological boxing matches, with Catholics and with Mormons and with Jehovah's Witnesses and with Satanists and with all the, and although this is good content, this is good stuff, she's like, babe, I don't think that it's bad that I'm doing this, but why are you not? And she really kind of just gut punched me because I realized what I was doing. I wanted my cake. I wanted to eat it too, and I didn't want to have to pay for it because I was afraid of losing my job. Because my fear is what if the wrong person sees this? What if they get offended? What if, I'm talking about some kind of, if whatever topic, whatever comes up, what would be super relevant today, like LGBTQ and 1 Corinthians 6 or, any of this stuff that would get up that would piss everyone off, and they would look up my stuff. And I think part of it was like me kind of having a little bit too much of a head, thinking I was going to blow up more than I would. I don't know why I assumed I was going to be the Christian Joe Rogan, but like I had this idea that like somebody's going to see it and I'm going to get fired, and then I eventually just got to the point to where I was like, look, do you believe this stuff or do you not? And I'm like, man, yeah. And it was like, okay. And if you lose your job, will you still love me? Yeah.
Wow.
If you lose your house, will you still serve me? If you are hated for my namesake, will you still post content for those that need to know about me? And I knew at that point, I felt so much conviction about it that I ended up sitting with Kim in my living room. And she just asked me, she called me out. She was like, "You're scared." I'm not scared of anything. But I was scared. And sometimes it still kind of worries me a little bit, but I just figured, okay, whatever. I'll give it a try. So I tried it and it wasn't going anywhere. I don't know why I started off on TikTok. I started out with like Facebook and Instagram or whatever, but Kim she was killing it on Instagram. I sucked, dude. But there was something about TikTok that it was easy to use. It was simple. I knew that people's attention span is unfortunately pretty short.
30 seconds.
Unless they're like they seriously like my stuff, they're not going to watch my stuff because I'm definitely going to put you out there and be like, hey, come and watch this. But I get if I talk longer than 7 minutes and we're going on 2 hours, if I talk longer than 7 minutes, the comments that I get is like, dude, he talks so much. I was going to watch, but I just can't, and they just,
you're doing great, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, bro. If they don't want to watch it,
dude,
we take
story's
shorts.
Incredible.
We have shorts, and then we do the long version on our YouTube, dude. So like they can watch whatever the heck they want.
So so I made a couple of them, and it's still rough, crude. And again, the most technologically savvy I am. I mean, I know the musical Xbox and the musical PlayStation. So like, I am not a techie at all. Like, all of this is complete. Like, this is Anunnaki technology to me, right?
Pretty much.
Right. You know, getting my mic, and that's ancient Sumerian black magic down there. Him
And
able to do it.
and,
Yeah.
you know.
Right. So, yeah, but the message was there. And so I understood. I'm like, you know, as much as I read, there's not a whole lot of people that know what the word epistemology means.
Me being one of them.
And they're going to go cross-eyed if you start saying things like pneumatology and soteriology. And it's just like, there are tons of people on here. And this latest trend, dude, I started a firestorm on TikTok because there seems to be this like cult within the Christian TikTok community that apparently Jesus doesn't know any other name other than Yeshua.
Yeshua,
right?
yeah. If you're not saying it right, you're going to hell, apparently.
Right. You know what I mean? Like, I guess you're screwed if you don't speak English, right? If you only speak Spanish, right? So like, I kicked a hornet's nest with this video that I made, you know, basically explaining and pronouncing Jesus's name in all of these different languages, and Chinese and Japanese and Russian and Spanish and then Latin and then Greek and Hebrew and French, and just going on, you know, just showing how silly that is, you know, and especially if he's the creator of all things and certainly the creator of all languages, you know. If you mean to tell me that Chat GPT can understand French, but Jesus can't, then, you know, you don't have a very high opinion of him. Well, anyway, you know, so I started making short little videos about that, but it was more so geared to the layman and, you know, people that work with their hands, you know, firefighters, cops, plumbers, security guards, gym rats, you know, people that like just normal everyday guys that don't have the time and the luxury to, you know, to go to the master's seminary and to get a doctorate in theology or a master's of divinity from, you know, Bob Jones University and all these other prestigious schools, which very well do have their place. They do. But again, you know, a lot of these people, they start going glassy-eyed when you start saying things that they don't know what you're talking about. They don't know what you're talking about when you start using terms like that, right? And, you know, I think the true sign of intelligence is not your ability to take a simple concept and complicate it and turn it into the Matrix, right? I think quite the opposite. I think it's your ability to take the Matrix, right, a very complex concept, and turn it into Lincoln Logs. You know, because, you know, and so like this stuff that I get all these comments of these people being like, listen, I know what you're saying is true. I can hear it. I know that, you know, that when you speak, you're speaking from God, but I don't know this stuff. Like, I'm so lost. I don't, you know, I don't know what any of this stuff means. I don't know. How do you get saved? How do you know you're saved? Right. Can you lose your salvation? What, you know,
It's so relevant. That's so relevant to all of our lives. We all have people in our lives that don't know anything about any of the story of Jesus. And, and they just haven't broken that barrier. And we're here for that.
Yeah, it's not even just that. I don't even know the right questions to ask. Like, what, you know, what?
You know what? And this is the thing. Sorry to cut you off a little bit, but this is the thing.
No, go ahead. No, I've been running my face for 2 hours.
No, dude, I love it, dude. You're a great talker, man. This is the best podcast we've ever had. I really believe now that God, when you're ready, you're ready. When you're ready, you're ready. God is not going to throw you, I always use this term, get thrown into the fire, because I love that. I love, like, as a plumber, a residential plumber, the most important thing that I thought was for me to learn the trade was to get thrown into the fire. And that is true for hands-on stuff, but it's not true for spiritualism and for God and for Jesus and for this kind of stuff. You are ready when you're ready. And I don't, it's just not a thing like you're going to have your, and this is exactly why we do this podcast. Like, this is one of the biggest reasons why we do this podcast, is because I'm a newbie to Christian, to the whole, all of this. And I love what God has given me, and I love what God has been doing for me lately. And I really think it's because I put my heart in that direction and I started listening and I kept my mind open. And that's what we want. We want people to come in and just listen, and hopefully they can make a better life out of it. That's how I feel about this. I love it, dude. And you're a killer talker, bro. Keep it going, bro. Dude, yeah, I love it, dude. Don't say sorry, dude. You're killing it, dude.
Well, anyway, so I think how I kind of cross paths with you, and this is where I'll just, you ask all the, after this, you ask all the questions that you want. I made a couple of videos, and it wasn't specifically because I was in uniform. I had just made this decision that whether I'm in uniform or out of uniform, I am going to share the gospel every single day.
Come on now.
Okay. Every single day. Right. But I did notice that, when I was in uniform, it got more views. It's just, and I never like waited until I was in uniform to give like a juicy message or anything like that. It happened or when it happened. But essentially where everything kind of like blew up, was, the video that I made that went super, super crazy. I think it's at like 1.3 million now or whatever. I have another one that's like almost at 1 million. I have another one that's like going way up there. And it wasn't like anything that I like concocted or anything like that. What it was I had a minute, and it's so funny because like, if you take any kind of a video or any kind of a serious video and you're in your uniform or whatever, people just immediately jump in there and assume, be like, is this what my tax dollars are paying for? You know what I mean? And it's like, it's so hilarious because like, I obviously wait until like the call screen's dead, or I've already clocked out, or just before I clocked in, or it's like the middle of the night, you know what I mean? And then
they did it to me too.
I wait and I upload later, and go solve real crimes. You know what I mean? Stop making, could be worse. I could be doing like TikTok dances and stuff, but
yeah, at least you're not one of those cops.
Oh man, dude.
So for just so everybody knows, whenever I make a video, it's dead. Like there's nothing going on. It's not like I'm making TikToks while people are getting stabbed in the face and stuff. So, exactly. But anyway, I have a family member who's I don't know how they're still alive. Let me put it that way. Their rent is way past due. They're living on 100% borrowed time, right? And they are burning the candle at both ends. Absolutely love them to death. Not going to dime them out. But I will say that they're not taking care of themselves spiritually. And I would say they're borderline hostile to the gospel. And this really this came on the back of something that was said. I haven't seen him in a while. And, I had another family member go and visit them. And they asked about me. And they're like, yeah, I haven't seen him in a minute. He's like, yeah, well, I don't want Jesus shoved down my throat. And it hurt my feelings. It hurt my feelings because I've never been like that. I've never been aggressive. I have people on the far extent, like other side of my family that are Muslim. You know what I mean? I have believers. I have non-believers in my family. I have Catholics. I have Baptists. I have hellfire and brimstone Baptists. I don't have the doing backhand springs down the aisles, and I don't have the
no Pentecostals then.
I don't have the Pentecostals, but there's a little bit of everybody, and I've never been, and I've always just been real. You know what I mean? And it's like I don't cram it in people's faces. So when that was said, it really kind of it hurt my feelings because first of all, it's disingenuous to my character. Number one, and number two, dude, you're like right there. Like you really need to be thinking about this stuff. And giving it a little bit more due diligence than you have been, right? So I made this one video. I had like 5 seconds. I had like 5 minutes. Call screen was dead. And I made this video and I said, listen, if I make a video about Jesus and that offends you, Jesus, the guy who never hurt anyone, never killed anyone, the guy that healed the sick, that restored sight to the blind, the guy that fed the homeless and made the lame to walk again, the guy that delivered the demoniac from a legion of demons, that brought his friend back from the dead, and the one that was mercilessly beaten to death for our sins. If I make a video about him and that offends you, then Jesus is not the problem.
The devil is.
Yeah.
Jesus is not the problem. And if that offends you, then you really need to ask yourself why. And you really need to think about it. Because somebody who fancies themselves an intellectual, listen, you can have more degrees than Fahrenheit and you can be educated well past your intelligence. You can have a doctorate and still be a moron.
Absolutely.
Okay? So that doesn't necessarily equate to knowing the truth. And like I said, I think the true sign of intelligence is not the ability to take a simple concept and make it the Matrix. I think it's the ability of taking the Matrix and turning it into Lincoln Logs. Because just like Caesar said, we have to become like these children or else we won't inherit the kingdom of God. Right. And when I made that video, I went to bed when I got home after shift. I worked like a domestic call. I took like a guy to jail and wrote a couple of speeding tickets, and I went home, went to bed. When I woke up, my phone was melting. People were losing their minds. And it was just like a 1 minute video. And there was no editing. There was no fancy splices. There was no nothing. It was just me being like, hey, Jesus ain't the problem. And then my phone started melting. And holy crap, dude. If you've ever made like a video or anything that went like super ultra mega viral, you hit this threshold, and I'm sure you've been doing this a while. You hit this threshold that like once you get after like 10,000 views or shares or whatever, then you start getting weirdos texting you and like, and you get like borderline schizophrenic messages, people.
I've definitely got that. I have a view with a million views on one of my videos, and I just had weirdo just
that after. You start getting attacked like, yo,
crazy.
Dude, I'm like
spiritually too, big time.
Well, not even just spiritually attacked, but like the comments, dude, you get shredded in the comments.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny you said like schizophrenic or whatever, because that I do think there's people like that on social media. I think that's like one of their outlets. But what's crazy is I think like that kind of mental illness has something to do with like demon possession. 100%.
So I actually 100% agree with you. And I know that this sounds bad, and if the wrong person sees it, then I'll get, suspended, but whatever. It's like the Inglourious Basterds thing. It's like, I've been chewed out before. You know what I mean? So, but as far as the schizophrenia thing goes, I have a family member who is paranoid schizophrenic, drug induced. And it's sad. But 100%, he talks to people who aren't there. He has full-on conversations with people who are not there. They tell him to do things like attack people and attack motorists. He sets things on fire, right? He constantly gets in fights, getting in fights with the cops and stuff, and having the SWAT team called on him. And so listen, the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And you can pretty much get all of those food groups. You can steal, kill, and destroy if you have just enough meth. So
Facts.
Be messed up.
It's true. It's true though. But like some of the messages that you saw, as far as the schizophrenia goes, what are the traits of demon possession, and what are the traits of schizophrenia?
Oppression.
Well, I would say like
we had a whole podcast with DeWiseman about, this is our old podcast, and we had a whole podcast on demon possession, and we kind of dove into it. And there's oppression, and oppression is the stage before possession,
right before. Yeah,
right. And this is basically when you get taunted and you get coaxed into saying things and doing things. And I don't believe that a lot of the people in the comments are possessed. I would say oppressed by demons. It's very creepy stuff, man. And you know what? This is why we do this, so those people can hear this. You can never comment back. You can never respond. Don't ever respond to these people. You don't. What you do is you lead by example, and you let them keep listening to your podcast or listening to your word, the word of God.
But yeah, so ask away whatever questions you got.
So you hit me up the other night, and I was on shift. I'm in the back of an ambulance, and we're transporting.
Boy,
and
jumping right into it.
Yeah, you're like, and we'll close with this. You hit me up. You're like, dude, you gotta watch this video. The video's messing up. I don't know. Let me know if you can see it, or if it's not glitchy or anything like that. So I was like, okay. Well, I watched the video. It was perfectly clean, and it's a video of you and your wife and your family on the way home from Tennessee, right? I think you went up to Tennessee.
Yep.
All right. So you went up there for some drug. What did you go up there for?
I went up there for this right here. It was advanced criminal enforcement interdiction training. So essentially it was drug interdiction. It's basically how to spot drug cars, and your roadside interviews, tactics and stuff, how to identify them. And more to the point, it's like everywhere where people stash and hide drugs within their cars, hidden compartments, modifications, either under the hood or inside the car, stuff like that. And so long story short, it's a drug course. So.
Yeah. So you showed me this video. This video, you guys are on your way back home. You're on I-75 heading south. You're in Georgia, and you guys, I mean, have an experience and witness lights in the sky, like abnormal lights and UFOs. But let's go, man. Bring it.
So, yeah. So we're in the car. We got the whole car loaded down. We got all 4 of the kids in there. It's about 8:15-ish at night, driving south down I-75. We had just passed through the city of Atlanta. We were on the other side of it. We're past the airport, and we are hitting our last stretch, before we get to like Tifton and the last couple of stops that, we got to stop to, go to the bathroom, fill up, and on our way back home. Well, while we were driving, we were just kind of borderline like delirious, you know what I mean? We're just kind of singing and being goofballs in the car and stuff. And while my wife is sitting in there, doing her American Idol thing in the passenger seat, I'm staring up above the highway and I see these 2 lights, and they're there for a minute. And what I noticed about them is that they appeared that they were stationary, but the road was winding, which I knew is abnormal, which means they were actually flying. And when they were flying at the same speed that we were driving, as to give the appearance that they're not moving. So these things are actually moving while appearing to be stationary, if that makes any sense. While I'm watching them, I turn the radio off, and I look at my wife and I go, "Hey, turn that off." And she goes, "What? What's up?" I was like, and I was using her phone as our nav, and I give her my phone. I was like, "You need to record that." She goes, "What?" I was like, "Pull out my camera, start recording." And so I said, you can zoom in here. I said, so you can see a little bit further than I can see right now. I said, zoom in and see what that is. So she starts zooming. And whenever she looks at these things, I'm following the road, then splits into 2. Splits into 2.
Man.
And I'm like, there's no way that just happened. And again, I'm tired. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, am I seeing stuff? Is this street lights? Is this not? Right. But again, the road is winding and these things are moving at the same speed that we're driving. And now it's multiplying. And then it does it a 3rd time. Now there's 3 of them. And then a 4th time. And now there's 4 of them. Whoa. 4. And if you haven't seen the video already,
I got to see it.
If you guys haven't seen the video, you need to watch the video. I already sent it to them, and feel free to splice it in the thumbnail or whatever. But
do it.
While you're watching it, it's separating. It's spreading out. And then as we're driving, it moves to the side of the highway. And then it's following us parallel. Okay. 4 lights that are following. And then they start converging again. And they start combining again.
Wow. Oh,
they start appearing and disappearing. And then eventually they separate again into 4 separate lights. And then eventually they just disappear. Here's the thing. I was not in the Air Force. I was not in the Air Wing. But I do know that we have some pretty crazy aircraft. I know that. I know that for sure. I'll tell you what we don't have. We don't have the military capability to appear out of thin air.
You sure about that?
Very. I am very sure. We do not have the military
these
capability.
Whistleblowers know,
I can tell you this. That is not man technology. That is not man-made technology.
You think it's reverse engineered?
Reversed. Yeah.
We can't reverse it. That's not possible.
You can't make things.
You can't make things disappear. You might be able to make things cloak themselves, but you can't make them. First of all, you can't make them
a different dimension, right?
You can't make them combine and separate like they're transformers.
I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it. Yep.
Straight up fallen angel activity going on.
And, it was one of those things where, like, if I didn't have her record it, you never would have believed it. I would have just been another crazy kook. But this stuff's for real. And she got a video of Ephesians 6:12, like right there in your face. And so, again, this kind of ties back into, and I know we didn't get into the AI stuff, but this all ties back into what originally kicked my journey off in the first place, which unfortunately was this unhealthy obsession with aliens. Which I can say this for sure, and this needs to be, if you're going to splice anything, splice this. For anyone that thinks that these things are alien technology, let me explain something to you. Okay. Anytime anyone has an encounter with these beings, which I've already had one encounter, I've had a few of them actually, but the one that I've already told you about, anytime that these things appear to people, which I do believe that they do, one did with me, they always happen in very similar fashion. They always show up. They always impart some sort of hidden wisdom, which, by the way, I went on a huge rabbit hole of wisdom acquiring after that, okay? But they always impart some sort of wisdom, right? There's always a sense of great fear. And if and when these encounters eventually do turn violent, and they do, they're not always cookie cutter. Oh, I got to talk to this little green man and he told me about the flower of life and how to achieve a higher consciousness. Eventually, it's going to go bad. It's going to go sideways. And when it does, the imparting knowledge that it's going to give you will always be a heresy. Every single time. You're God. There is no God. God's a woman. God's trans. We're all God. It is everything that points away from Jesus Christ. And on the flip side of that, every single time that this does go sideways, and I am living proof of this, when you speak the name Jesus, everything stops on a dime. It's not hocus pocus. It's for real.
You ask any abductee that has said the name of Jesus, and every single one of them will tell you that they instantly had it stop.
Here's my question. If it's all fake nonsense and they're here and God's not real, and why would they be so offended of Jesus if Jesus wasn't real?
Hello, that part.
But the letter J
Right.
was never a thing.
Yeah,
I guess. Yeah.
Get out of here.
You're gonna get the
with that.
Hebrew name cult stuff,
That literally sounds like a demon just trying to break
Discredit.
down his name. And
even Lucifer appears as an angel of light. You know what I mean? It goes back to the same. It's the garden all over. Ye shall be as gods, right?
Wow.
And it always little G. It always starts the same way, where it undermines and questions the authority of Jesus, the authority of Scripture, and the authority of God. Every single time, it will undermine and undercut him and say, "Did God really say?" Fill in the blank.
Dude, you're so right. Oh man, this is we get into the advanced class again. This is
The advanced.
this is awesome.
What do you keep doing?
It.
You keep like tapping your thing and it lights up. How do you?
Oh yeah, it's
how do I
like
get mine to do?
Dude, it's like the mute. Watch,
can't.
I'm like talking.
It's just the
just don't
style.
let it
It's the mute button. Yeah. It's the
got
mute
my power,
button.
man. Yeah, I know.
Ronan's funny, dude. I like this guy. You're awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Amazing story, man.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a motor mouth, but
No,
Dude,
man, it was great, man. Honestly, you shared like so much of your testimony that you trailed us into your life. You trailed us into the experiences you had. You brought us into what you've been through, and you really painted a real big picture for not just us, but the audience of who you are. And I mean, it was awesome, dude. It was great.
Yeah, thanks. If I could leave this with you. So you guys are super special because I haven't told anybody else this. I mean, obviously you can see there's podcasts set up. Before this, everything was just on my phone. And you guys were really kind of the big push, the big motivator to kind of, I guess, kick it into high gear. So on TikTok, which, it's so frustrating, man. Like I was like, my TikTok exploded and then they banned it. Of course, right?
Yeah, of course.
Of course,
I get
right?
I get banned all the time. Yeah.
Hey, by the way, it's back on now. I don't know if you knew this.
Yeah, I know. They wouldn't
Right.
take
So
that.
I mean,
There's been an extension, anyways.
Yeah, but look what they did, dude. They shut it down with like shutting the light off.
yeah.
I mean,
so,
it
We're
kind of
back
really
on.
burst the momentum. It destroyed the momentum of, I don't know. It makes me have a bunch of different.
for sure,
Everything's a
but
psyop.
yeah, but I would say this. Facebook is kind of subpar as far as like the video goes. If this is potato vision, then it's like poop vision on Facebook. Anytime I do a Facebook video, it looks like, you're filming Sasquatch. I don't know if that's just my camera. I don't know. But I'm on primarily on Facebook and Instagram. Instagram and my Facebook are linked. That's why, they upload at the same time. I have an X, but I haven't really been super confident. Well, I haven't been on it a lot. I don't like the platform really. It's not too user friendly as far as like posting long form content and stuff. But podcast is getting set up here. I am setting up a YouTube and a Rumble channel.
So
Yeah, it's I haven't told anybody the name yet. I'm going to reveal it to you guys, but as far as what everybody knows me from on TikTok and everything else, it was started out as the Contender. And if you hear at the end of my videos, I always say, to be strong, endure, and contend for the faith. I'm a boxer, contending. Obviously, you've obviously heard what a contender is, right? It's a formidable fighter, but the word contend is a military term, and it means to do battle, okay? And essentially, my whole premise has been, to combat or do battle against the lies of, I guess you could say, the mainstream narrative, theologically, everything that is raised up against the knowledge of Christ right now. Okay. So, everything from complete false gospels to, the seeker sensitive movement to the, I guess for lack of better terms, the woke church, the prosperity gospel, and everything in between, especially the New Age. Okay, we're going to war against that, and just this. I guess, for lack of better terms, if you don't know this one, this is a good one to chew on and look up later. Theosophy. That's essentially what this is turning into. This is turning into an ecumenical hodgepodge of soup sandwiches. What I call and this is my quote here. Feel free to steal it. I call it theological McDonald's. It feels good, it smells good, it tastes good, and it's theological crap. That's essentially what's happening to the church now. And the reason that I started this, the Contender, was to combat the lies with truth. However, now that I have almost come completely over to YouTube and going to be Rumble here soon, due to copyright reasons, I can't use that name anymore. I can't go under the name The Contender. Apparently, there's already 2 podcasts with that name. Kind of lame, but it's whatever. I can't use it. point is I can't use that name anymore. However, the name of my podcast is it's the Brass Knuckles Bible Club.
Yeah.
I love it. Love it.
that
I
goes
love
right
it. Goes hard.
It comes from an inside joke of me and the guy that actually helped lead me to Christ. You know, he kind of got the ball rolling for me a couple years ago, and I ended up, you know, getting saved. I actually ended up baptizing him last year, which is crazy. My buddy Chris Whitetoss, if you're watching this, I'm shouting you out, actually. You know, and he, you know, we used to get into these theological debates all the time, and in the most loving way. I mean, like we almost went to fisticuffs a couple times. You know what I mean? And but it was all for Jesus. And one of the guys that I listened to, you know, he's not for everybody. He's not for everybody, and he's certainly not for, like, if you're new to the faith, I wouldn't recommend it, because he's going to make you think that you just need to, like, there's no hope for you and you just need to dive off a cliff, right?
Yeah.
But Pastor Dr. John MacArthur, okay, he's theologically, dude's like Mike Tyson, right? Or Mike Tyson, you know, in his prime, not Jake Paul, Mike Tyson. You know, but the guy is an absolute whiz, Greek, Hebrew, and he's been a pastor for almost 50 years. Grace to You Bible Church out in Sun Valley, California. He's also the head of the Master's Seminary. I would only that's like going to the, you know, Naval Academy. I don't have enough money for that. But anyway, we used to get into these theological arguments all the time. And I used to send him these sermons, and they're super meaty. Like, if you're like, it's because he uses all those big words, right? But he tells me, he's like, man, he goes, he's good, but God, sometimes when I'm listening to him, he sounds like he should have a Bible in one hand and brass knuckles in the other. And so that kind of became this running joke of whenever I'm a little bit too harsh with people, and you know, and they want to send me hate mail and stuff like that. But not to be a jerk to people, but you know, anyway, circling back all around to all this thing, not being able to use the name that stuck, you know, with the Contender, because that's what everybody knows me, that and Ronan, my name. Well, I can tell you the Brass Knuckles Bible Club is not copywritten, so that's what the podcast is going to be. If anybody wants to see, just look out.
I love it, man. I love it. I love it, man. I love it. I'm going to be a viewer. Might be one of your, you know, one of your number one fans. But brother, we appreciate you coming on. What a story. Going to be praying for you and your family, especially with the world we're living in and the times that, you know, are ahead of us. We really need to be doing that for all of us. And that's one thing too, you know, as I've brought on guests of this show, and I feel like we're building like a Christian Bible Avengers team. Right. And we're just
remnant warriors, right?
Yeah. And, you know, it's been amazing. And again, I think God's calling us to do this. So we're just going to do it with our whole heart, man. I know you are. And, you know, I just can't wait to see what's in store for you in the future. And, you know, blessings to you and your family, man. So what we do at the end of the show is Taylor closes us in prayer.
All right. Father God, thank you for everything you've given us, Father. And I just pray that you just continue to watch over Ronan and all of us and our families as we go forth and just go out and preach your word, Father God, and try to further your kingdom. I plead the blood of Jesus Christ over our viewers as well. And I just pray that, you know, any enemy assignments are canceled in Jesus' name. I pray that we do what you want us to do, say what you want us to say, and that we live our lives the way you want us to live it. and just give us strength spiritually and physically, and the tools to what we need to do every day as we walk in life, Father God. And thank you for having this man on here and share his testimony and everything he's been through up to today, Father God. You've kept him safe. You've kept him here for a reason, and I pray that you bless him in Jesus' name. We pray. Amen.
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 Amen, man. We'll link up again. We'll get you on for another show. We'll talk about some different topics for the next one. And
now that we got that out of the way, yeah.
No, that was great. That was great, man.
Sorry, I know.
I have an awesome like thumbnail image in my head for this, and we'll stay in touch with you. We're gonna let you know when we release, and it's gonna be good. You're gonna like it.
We're gonna zoom all the way in on your face.
If you're gonna show the grid square, you just show you three guys and just show up. Just show a potato.
It's
right
gonna
there.
be awesome, man.
Potato.
It's gonna be awesome. We just appreciate you for coming on, man, and blessings to you and the family.
Yeah, bro. Stay in touch, man.
All right, yeah, let's do it again sometime.
Yes, sir.